Steve Bowers and Jimmy Leach, Tennessee Underground, TugNews.com. We've been working together for the last several months, doing highlights and posting other things on our Buzzsprout site, other sites, and on YouTube. I want to take an opportunity to talk to people that are following us and those that we welcome in, to talk about what we see as far as law enforcement and direction of things over the next couple of years. Our estimation, Jimmy, is that things have changed for police departments, for the public, for everybody, because of maybe George Floyd's situation highlighted it. News coverage has continued. We've had other troubling things happening. Reaction within the law enforcement community, a lot of uncertainty out there. And my feeling is we're moving into different territory, and that needs to be addressed.
You said it very, very well, Steve. And what I hope we don't do any more of, because we've done a lot of this so far, a lot of knee-jerk reactions. Okay. You mentioned George Floyd. George Floyd was an incident. It happened. It was terrible. Our system worked. And what I'm afraid we're coming to in our country is when we say system, we mean the uniformed police that are the most identifiable part and the most easy part to access or address or attack. Okay. And I like to look at the whole, I call it the order and justice system. Okay. I think we have to have order to accomplish what we want to have. Right. We got to feel like we can go to the mall and shop in safety. And justice, I would like for us to talk about justice. Justice is not always what you want to happen or what I want to happen. In our system, it is justice. And that's sort of a moving thing. That's a living thing. It changes.
What we're hearing, to my knowledge, for the first time, I'd never heard defund police. I never heard that. I mean, we don't like the sheriff and we may elect another one, or we've got a renegade rogue cop that needs to be gotten rid of, or Serpico, or all these things that we've seen in the past, right? But I've never heard someone say we just need to defund or depolice this society. We're hearing that on one side. There is a countering reaction that will be just as strong to a certain extent from the other side out here. But in the midst of this, we're talking about things we've never discussed before. Some people that are in serious positions of authority are saying, seriously, look into a camera saying, we do not need policing the way we've had it. That brings up the other discussion is, if not that, then what? Or does there need to be a modification of, or whatever? You and I have talked before, the stat that I saw recently, that we have 25%, or we have 4% of the world's population, we have 25% of the world's prisoners. And it's like, okay, there's something amiss here. Are we doing too much of something, or whatever? I mean, there are many things to discuss, but what I sense right now is it's urgent to start discussing these because the mood in this country is changing. We're into a territory that's very fluid. There are people that can gain politically from aggravating the situation, not talking in context, but just highlighting one side or the other. They can get political points. I'm either for the police or I'm against them, right? And both of those are blind spots to me. That reality is somewhere in between all of this.
Yeah, I agree. It's they're looking right now as we speak. You've got a law that has been passed in the Congress, in the House of Representatives, to reform police. Well, now they're talking about, before it goes to the Senate, they're talking about doing some negotiation. Let's look at this, let's look at that. That's what we need. I think, sure, police need reforming. The correction system needs reforming. Maybe our court system. Everything. We're a growing society. We're a growing world. We got to change to keep up.
Coming out of the South, I know that civil rights legislation was important at the federal level to address situations within states that were not right, that were preventing people from being full citizens of this country. All right? I'm aware of that. But when the Congress of the United States starts talking about reforming individual localized police departments and localized law enforcement, that concerns me too. Federal enforcement officers are there to enforce federal law, right? And I know that there's a civil rights dimension to all of this as well. That the government of the United States is there to protect the freedom and the dignity of each individual within this society. And if a state or local government is doing things, or a company is doing things that are counter to that, then that needs to be addressed. But I have real concern when some of the people that are pushing this legislation saying these departments do not need to be, and it's up to us to enforce that. And that is a flag to me. I mean, among many that are going on out there. My feeling, and what I hope we can discuss through this format, is, let's clarify where we're heading, and let's move deliberatively out here. And there needs to be give and take on both sides.
Exactly. Right.
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 Because, like I said, I'm concerned about the rest. I said, the police, and we don't do anything wrong ever, and when we're maligned, and then the other side said, there's nothing you ever do that's right. Neither one of those is true.
Exactly right, Steve.
But I'm concerned, Jimmy, to a certain extent. And the Department of Justice got a role, federal government's got a role, and everything else. But there's also a citizen protection that's built in. That police department is funded by the people of a city, a local community. And somebody appoints that police chief or elects that police chief or whatever, and that's the local citizens' jurisdiction out there. It concerns me when the federal government says we're going to come in, we're going to pass some things, and we're going to straighten this out.
Maybe there are some things we should do nationally, such as databases.
Okay.
That type thing. And those are things I'd like for us to talk about in depth, Steve, as we go on.
Right.
But, there's a whole lot of difference in policing in Grand Junction, Tennessee, and Manhattan, or Los Angeles. And I agree with everything you just said. We need to keep a lot of this local. It's got to be local. But like you said, Steve, we got to understand, we elect people who eventually are in charge of making the laws.
Right.
And then our judicial system defines the laws. The police enforce the laws that our elected officials, who we elected, say need to be enforced. So it's a whole big picture. We can't just segregate it out. We got to look at the big picture.
Here's what we're wanting to do with Tennessee Underground and with Tug News and the different avenues through which we reach people. We'd like to have your input into what's happening, because we're going to talk about some things. We need collective input. We're going to develop ways for direct communication with us so that we can continue this dialogue personally, but with the inclusion of so many of you that are listening, share these concerns out there. And one other element, this may be a multi-dimensional thing. There may be a time when we need to talk strictly to people that are involved in enforcing the law, because there are things that they're going to be facing and issues that they can find. That's Jimmy's background, that may be contained within an element that's beyond just what is of concern to the public. We're all concerned about all that. But there may be times we take this microphone and just go one-on-one, say, if you're wearing a blue uniform or you're wearing a badge, whatever it may be, okay, what's going on here, or what needs to be happening here, or what's the reaction of what's going on, or what are you seeing? Are you seeing anything that's working out there? And because some of us, and I don't want to ramble here, but when I hear people say, well, we'll just send counselors out to these domestic situations and all this other stuff, it's like there's a naivete to that to me. It's like a counselor is not equipped to deal with somebody that may be armed, somebody that may be angry, somebody that may have already hurt somebody within a house.
All right, that's it. And people that say that mean well.
I think
but
they do.
I'd like to hear the logistics of exactly how we're going to make that work.
Okay.
And maybe we need to look at things. I think definitely we need to look at everything we can think of. But just to sit back and say we need to, before you do it, think about, because we've already had enough knee-jerk reaction. The defund police effort that you mentioned, it's going to take us years to come back from the harm we did with that.
Wow, we'll see. Tennessee Underground and tugnews.com, the initial sources, and we're going to be working every way we can to communicate back and forth with each of you that dignify us with downloads and sharing the insights that we have. We just want to take it to another dimension right here, and with your help we will. Steve Bowers and Jimmy Leach, and this is Tennessee Underground.